Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We hope all of you are healthy and keeping safe. My name is Kalyani, and I'll be one of your moderators for today. I am the Global Marketing Manager for Infrastructure Management and Security Services Unit at Happiest Minds Technologies. With me today, I have Fiona Chow, Marketing Manager for SailPoint, as my co moderator. Now, let me walk you through the agenda for the day. In a moment, I'll introduce you to our esteemed panelists and provide a brief introduction about Happiest Minds Technologies. From there, Ms. Susmita Sankaran will take over the stage and speak on modernization of identity management, human-centric security for digital world. After which, Mr. Sobi Chako will take it forward and provide us with detailed inputs on modern identity product by SailPoint. Meanwhile, Fiona will be noting down all your questions which the panel will address at the end of the session. Therefore, please don't forget to drop any questions in the chat window as and when it comes to your mind. I would urge everyone to be on mute during the session in order to avoid confusion. Please use the chat window to communicate with the panel. Without further delay, let me introduce you to the speakers for today. Ms. Susmita Sankaran, Associate Director and Head of IDAM Practice at Happiest Minds Technologies, comes with 15 plus years of experience in IT and enterprise security industry. She is currently responsible to drive the IDAM Charter for Happiest Minds, which involves end-to-end planning, strategizing, redefining, developing, deploying and the Next-Gen IAM platform for organizations like yours. When not working, Susmita is an artist at heart. She loves sculpting, doing mural paintings, and writings. Mr. Sobi Chako, sales engineer at SailPoint, comes with over 18 plus years of experience in IT and identity management consulting industry. Sobi comes with diverse experience in cloud security, professional services, pre-sales, and more. He is a trusted technical advisor on identity management and architecture and deployment to customers, vendors, and system integrators. Sobi's greatest sense of achievement comes from saving struggling projects and turning them into reference accounts. In my conversation with him early today morning, I asked him what he does when not working. He said, and I quote, "I'm a simple guy who loves spending time with my family and cooking for them." Well, before we move on to the topic of the day, I would like to introduce you to Happiest Minds Technologies. We are a mindful IT company. We enable digital transformation for enterprises and technology providers by delivering seamless customer experience, business efficiency, and actionable insights. We do this by leveraging a spectrum of digital technologies such as AI, blockchain, cloud, digital process automation, IoT, robotics, drones, security, virtual augmented reality, and more. Positioned as a born digital, born agile, our capabilities span digital solution infrastructure, product engineering, and security. We deliver these services across industry sectors such as automotive, BFSI, consumer packaged goods, e-commerce, edutech, engineering, R&D, high-tech manufacturing, retail, travel, transportation, and hospitality. A great place to work certified company, Happiest Minds is headquartered in Bangalore, and we spread across 16 cities, 8 countries, and work with 170 plus customers. We were launched in the year 2011 by Mr. Ashok Sutta, a serial IT entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in global IT industry. Now, what you see on the screen are some of the accreditations we have bagged over the years in our race to become one of the leading IT service providers from India. Without further delay, let me hand over the mic to Susmita, who will speak on the topic for the day. Hi, Susmita, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Kalyani. Thank you so much. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we look into the modernization of identity management or the nitty-gritties of how the human-centric security should work in the digital world, let's quickly take a look at how the identity has. Okay, one second. Sorry about that. Yeah. Let's quickly take a look at how the identity and subsequent identity management has evolved over a period of time, because that's how we will understand what it is, how modern identity looks like, how it has transitioned from what the traditional identity was, and what sort of controls should be in place while we talk about securing a modern identity workplace. So identity management started around 20 years back. At that point in time, the focus was primarily on reduced IT overhead. There was no thought whatsoever in terms of security or in terms of compliance even. It was primarily to make the life of the IT team a bit easier, streamline a little bit of identity management, take care of a bit of application access management, so on and so forth. But this scene changed drastically in 2005 when the giants of the compliance world, like the SOX, the FISMA, the PCI DSS kind of compliances, made their presence felt. So at that point in time, they came with a lot of stringent regulations regarding protection against protecting the enterprise data. So that's where we had all of these IAM solutions come in. So it saw also a birth of IAM products at this duration of time. So during that time, there were a lot of IAM products that came into being, which still continue to lead the market, while there were few which fizzled down because they were not able to adapt to the changing phase of identity. Like every day, that's how the identity landscape is changing, right? So during that period is where the primary focus was on access governance, compliance, and some sort of privileged access management, primarily very nascent stage, agent-based sort of thing. The focus here was primarily compliance-driven IAM programs. So security came as a byproduct. So in the meanwhile, while I put a tick mark on my security portfolio checklist, if I'm getting additional security around certain threats, insider or outside threats, it was a byproduct, meaning that there was no specific focus against on securing the environment against certain threats out there. So focus was primarily only compliance. This was true until a few years back, or say 5 to 6 years back. That's when the human-centric security came into being and identity being at the very core of it. This is where the IAG solutions or the IAM portfolio on the whole became extremely developed, and the kind of use cases, the kind of technologies that were being handled in that space became much more rich and much more advanced. So we saw new protocols come in like OAuth or OIDC, IDAS came into being. So the shift from on-premise to cloud took a major shift. And there was a plethora in PAM. I mean, the boom in PAM space was phenomenal. So something that started as being a very agent-based solution in the 2000s came into multiple modules. So we moved from credential management to something like embedded credential management, manage the credentials within your scripts, or even command restriction, SSH key rotation, and even to the point that PAM at the endpoints were being secured. Multi-factor authentication came stronger during this duration, and consumer IDAM, and slowly the privileged access management and DevOps space, passwordless authentication, those kind of technologies came into being. Now, what does the IAM future roadmap look like? So if you look at from 2000 to what the roadmap is looking at, you see the exponential growth that has happened in the IAM landscape, right? That is the kind of living, breathing entity that identity has moved into. So IDAS now, rather than just being a cloud-based solution, it is heavily banking on technologies such as machine learning and analytics. Identity platform, which were inherently monolithic architecture, now moved into microservices, which came with its own sets of advantages that they could offer to us. There is context-based identity that came into being for risk-based decision-making, which they helped into. RPA came in because we wanted to, automate certain day in, day out tasks, so that to make the life easier, but they came with their own set of problems, meaning how do you take care of the bots, or if there are any conflicts within the bot, how do you take care of that? Those kind of issues came in. Of course, there are modern solutions which are addressing that. We will talk about that in a little bit. Then again, blockchain, yeah, that is one of the important things that is still a nascent stage, but I'm sure we will see development in that front. Zero trust, of course, identity forms the pillar of the zero trust architecture, which is much being talked about. And overall, the focus shifted from IAM being something which was in place, which was a good to have solution, to a compliance driven solution, to being at the core of your cybersecurity framework for the organization. So that is how the IAM has transitioned slowly. And now let's see what the analysts are also talking about in terms of the threats that are out there if you do not have a proper IAM solution in place. Yeah, so we can take a look at any data breach investigation reports. We all know 45% of data breaches last year were the result of hacking into corporate networks, which is fine. We all know that. But what is shocking or what needs to be looked at is 80% of those hacking related breaches were caused by stolen or compromised credentials. What that translates into is that it is insider threat. So threat does not necessarily come from outside while we are protecting our perimeters, our endpoints and all of that. The threat is actually coming from inside and a very huge number at that. What is more shocking than that is from 2017 to date to 2020, this number has not been, it has been stagnant or rather dwindling very slightly. So in 2070s, it was somewhere in the 80, 81, 82. Then again, it is dwindling around the same. From 80 to 85%, it has just been toggling around, which is a case of concern because what it means is either that the enterprises do not have an IAM solution in place, or if they have an IAM solution in place and it is not implemented properly, or that the implemented IAM solution is not able to scale up to the changing phase of the modern identity. What does this mean? So we have heard and seen and read about all sort of breaches out there. Sorry, I seem to have a bad throat. Sorry about that. So we have heard about the eBay debacle that has happened, or Trend Micro. So these are all big names out there which has had data breaches, and at the heart of it, it has always been the credentials within the organizations that were not being taken care of, or the identities which were compromised within the organization, and that definitely is a cause of concern. Let me now take you to how the traditional identity landscape was as opposed to how the modern identity landscape is. So this is important because many of us are still in the in the frame of mind that my organization is still traditional, and maybe we are transitioning to the modern identity space, but we are not there yet. So let me just take you through this traditional identity landscape, how it was and what it is, how it has changed today. Traditional identity landscape was very sweet and cute, right? We have a nice perimeter wall around. You have entities. In entities, you had your employees and contractors, and that's about it. The trust was inherently trusted. So there is no focus or no thought about having a zero trust architecture or anything of that sort. These entities were given out or handed out assets such as enterprise desktops, laptops, and which were secured using some group policies or some sort of permissions, which were manual or semi-manual, and they would access the assets within the enterprise, be it your homegrown on-premise web applications, be it the thick clients which were quite big a few years back, or the mainframe systems using your VPN and LAN accesses. So everything is within the control of the security team. So if you have your perimeter secured enough in terms of your routers and firewalls are well enough, your DMZs are well defined and all of that, you are still okay. But think of it now this way. Now I will take you to how the modern identity looks like. This is scary. First and foremost, there is no perimeter at all. It is perimeterless and heterogeneous. So we are not just talking about on-premise perimeter where you can put in some controls and access control and security. What will you control when there is no perimeter at all? It is heterogeneous, so you have not just cloud, you have multiple clouds and a combination of on-prem and clouds and SaaS-based solutions, so on and so forth, right? Now take a look at the bottom of it. That is what your identity landscape looks like, or identity spectrum looks like. So initially we had only employees and contractors. Now it has expanded from employees to contractors to partners to customers. So far so good. But add to that devices such as bot or IoT devices, where the human beings who are handling these devices need their identities need to be secured, and the conflicts that could arise between the bots also need to be addressed. So that's quite a complicated framework right out there in the identity space itself. Then again, the way that we work has changed, meaning given the COVID times that we are in, right? So completely all of us are remotely working. Even now I am logging in from my home, and I'm sure most of you are also logged in from your home to listen to me today. So the workforce has completely shifted from enterprise locations to home, and that has also led to usage of assets on which the corporate does not have much control on. So there is this whole thing of BYODs, CYODs, etc. The applications which are being accessed are, again, there could be on-prem application, there could be SaaS, and there is also this new trend of using many open source applications out there, be it for the HRMS, be it for the financial requirements. And from an enterprise perspective, if you look at it, it makes quite sense for them as well, because it will be quickly integrated. It makes sense in terms of ROI. So why not, right? The only thing or cause of concern there is the security controls that need to be in place while these sort of applications get integrated with the enterprise data. This is just what the modern identity landscape looks like. Now add to that very stringent privacy regulations that are coming into being. So just because the identity is moving perimeterless, the regulations that the authorities or the bodies are imposing on enterprises, there is no dearth for it. So we have the likes of GDPR, CCPA, or I mean closer to the home, India DPA, etc., which are coming up with their own set of privacy regulations that need to be in place, and non-compliance would lead to very, very hefty penalties also. There is also a change in focus of enterprises to improve the user experience. So there is this need or this urge of improving the experience for your employees or for your third parties in terms of having single sign-on solutions or self-service portals, and also authentication mechanisms are changing. Social authentication, stronger authentication such as passwordless logins, biometrics, etc., are also coming into being. Now, this is all fine, what we have discussed so far. Now, add to this, to top it all, the threat landscape is also continuously increasing. So you have your insider threat, where there are issues such as your privilege creep and lateral privilege escalation issues, kind of vulnerabilities that your organization is opening up to. And the external threats also, such as your golden ticket attacks, ransomware attacks, cloud jacking, spear phishing attacks, so on and so forth. So overall, this is what your evolving face of your modern identity looks like in terms of perimeter, in terms of identities, in terms of the resources, assets, compliances. There are many, many faces or facets to your overall modern identity landscape these days. Now, how do we address this? Or how do we rather secure this? We are trying to secure something as complex as this with a traditional IGA solution. Then what happens? So what is a typical IGA solution or typical IAM solution? What would be the typical use cases that you have in there? So identity lifecycle management, RBAC, least privileged access, separation of duties. These are the typical use cases that will be there in that. But is a traditional IAG solution, IGA solution, IAM solution able to address the changing, modern identity landscape, which is turned into a living, breathing entity, if I may call so? because every other day there are changes, every other day there are there is a need to adapt to new technologies. And how is it that a traditional IGA solution can address these? So what does it lead to? If we try to map a traditional IGA solution to your modern identity landscape, it means that you will have fragmented visibility, because of course your enterprise network itself is completely complex, hybrid. Then how you'll not have end-to-end visibility, in terms of there will be pockets in there where the security team will not have visibility as to what exactly is happening. There would be applications, legacy applications, which are not under the purview of the IAM umbrella perhaps. So maybe the cloud SaaS applications are easily integrated, so it is fine. But then what happens to the chunk of legacy applications that is already part of the enterprise, right? That sort of adds to the baggage of it. Limited controls against insider threats. So there are issues such as identity consolidation or service account management kind of issues. So the controls against all of these would be very high if we are trying to use a traditional IGA solution. Excluding compliance requirement, we have already spoken about. There is new privacy law every other day, and modern IGA solution has this capability of providing recommendations in terms of what are those set of controls or policies that need to be in place in case you need to adhere to some new privacy law that has come in, which is lacking in your older generation traditional IGA solution. Because the architecture is so complex, we have multiple identity sources. So there is again the thought of how do we go about establishing what should be the single source of truth. Now, SOD conflicts for new technologies. This is very interesting. New technologies such as RPA has been brought into being so that our life gets a little easier, because we want to automate all the operational tasks and free our workforce from doing repetitive tasks to something much more meaningful. What that has led to is SOD conflicts within the bots. So there is human to bot SOD conflict, there is bot to bot SOD conflict. The traditional IGA solution does not even consider bot as a separate identity that needs to be looked at. Forget about looking at the SOD conflicts within these, right? So these become some really cause of concern, because at one spectrum of it we are trying to automate, we are trying to go next gen, and the other spectrum of it we are not able to control or secure the environment enough. So that's a catch-22 kind of a situation. And all of this leads to identity governance fatigue, because at one end, the security team will be maintaining IAG solution, fully functional, taking care of some segments of the enterprise, whereas the other segment, other part of it will still be unmanaged, disconnected applications, which will still be need to be managed through manual means. So that is where there is a need to have a modern IGA solution. And let's take a look at what exactly does a modern IGA solution look like. Yeah. So these are the good to have features in your modern solution, right? So first and foremost, it's the life. We need everything quickly. It's the time of pizza delivery within 30 minutes. So it has to be lightweight. It has to be cloud ready. We cannot even imagine of having those longer deployment cycles, months together of planning, designing, execution, and all of that. It has to be quick. It has to be cloud ready with multiple out-of-box connectors available, and cross-domain access availability. Day one productivity. This again goes back and talks about the same thing. It has to be very, very quickly scalable and quickly productive, if I might say. Because if the enterprise in itself has proper clarity, or the security team has clarity in terms of what are the applications that will go in first for the integration, with the ease of integration that the IDA solution provides, we can look at getting the product or the IAM program running from day one onwards. But it requires, of course, a bit of planning. But if not from day one, but in a week's time, definitely you'll start seeing the results of it. So that again translates into a better ROI. In terms of better TCO. So better TCO is earlier solution used to be extremely heavy, physical footprint was very high. Just to manage an identity management and access governance solution, you had to have a very trained team available who would take care of the functioning of the solution. Then any sort of an integration or any sort of customization would lead to a lot of effort and complicated architecture. So basically, the it required a very specialized workforce to take care of it. Add to that again the additional requirement in terms of plan the backup and recovery, and how is the high availability being taken care of, all of that. So all of this, what do you say, focus of all of this falls back into the OEM, because all of this will be taken care of by your IDAS solution provider, rather than being taken care of in-house within the organization. What else? Yes, the solution is, we briefly touched upon the solution being provided as microservices, right? So it comes with its own set of advantages, meaning that earlier when we have these on-premise solution, or even the otherwise also, it used to be the monolithic architecture. So any kind of upgrades or any kinds of updates on all of that used to be the accountability of the enterprise, rather than that being of the product owner which is providing those services for you. So now what happens is the focus shifts on the product owner, and also all of these upgrades or updates get pushed very seamlessly in the back end, without having much focus on, or without even the enterprises getting to know that there are these upgrades that are pushed in. Or there would be a team that is sitting and researching only on looking at the threat landscape and checking the code, the source code of the solution that is out there, and making sure that any of the zero-day attacks are all addressed. So these things will get addressed even before the enterprise in itself comes to know that there is some threat out there, because there will be a complete focus on making sure that the platform in itself is resilient to these kind of attacks. Machine learning based access modeling, using machine learning to analyze what is the current user access, to identify, so identify similar access grouping and potential roles. So there is no longer that it is the IAM team's responsibility to sit and figure out, talk to multiple stakeholders, pull out lots of data, and then see how things are working out and what it can be and what it cannot be. So now the system itself will do that for you and provide you recommendation, which will be the best practices, of course. And the security team is free to choose whether or not they want to go with the recommendation, but the system will have enough data. It will manage and it will analyze multiple chunks of data to reach on that particular recommendation, and you'll be able to see. So if suppose an access has to be revoked, the application owner can actually see if the access is revoked, what is going to be the repercussion, rather than at the traditional framework where the revocation happens, and when something breaks, that's when you get to know, and then we go back and go ahead with the remediation, so on and so forth. This insight is one such solution which go ahead and it does all that sort of analysis and recommendation for the solution. Now, apart from all of these, in terms of having machine learning and AI at the core of your modern identity landscape, it is also very important that easy integration should be a point of consideration, because IAM solution in itself is no longer a single entity, or it is no longer, what do you say? It's no longer working in silo. It forms the crux of the overall security program for any of the enterprises, and it needs to integrate well with the rest of it. So if supposing you have an IGA solution, it needs to integrate well with your access management solution. It needs to integrate well with your privileged access management solution. It needs to integrate with your SIEM solutions. It needs to integrate with your ITSM solutions, so on and so forth. So basically what I'm trying to say is out-of-box integration capabilities need to be available. And the governance solution will be able to govern these trusted identities across these multiple platforms, be it for SSO, be it for PAM, be it for enterprise applications, all of it. So that should be the look at. That should be what we should be looking at. Bot management, we already spoke about a little bit earlier. That is, bots are here to stay. We all know that. Uh, so it's important to look at not just from managing the bot, provisioning bit or that, but also looking at the SOD part of it, because going forward, that is going to be a very important, bone of contention in your security landscape, because the rate at which RPA is getting adapted into enterprise framework is quite exponential. Yeah, this is overall a high level on what is the expectation or what should one be looking at when we are looking at the modern IAG for your modern identity landscape. Now we know what a modern IAG solution should look like, what should be the features. We know what a modern, IAM landscape looks like as well. We know what are the risks out there and why it is difficult to, secure access controls over there. But is that enough? How do we actually plan or strategize our modern IAM, solution definition? So to begin, there is the IAM assessment. Now, the thought behind that is very simple. Until and unless we don't know what we have, we cannot protect it. IDA solution comes with its own baggage, I would say, because it gives a false sense that since it is looking so easy and since so many out-of-box connectors are available, IT teams are sort of recklessly also, heading towards getting an IDA solution and integrate a few, out-of-box connectors, and that's it. You do that for first 10 applications and then we are lost. The IAM program has no focus. There is no thought process in terms of how to increase the overall security matrix of the enterprise. It's a very half-baked kind of thing. So and such IAM programs are bound to fail. And I've seen these kind of IAM programs fail where the solution has been picked up, a few, some sort of integration is out there, and then there is a lack of focus, and then they have reached out to us where we go back and do the overall assessment for them, right? We do the overall IDAM assessment, understand that this is what is your as is. This should be your to be state. Define a to be state, define a roadmap. How do you reach from your as is to your to be state? What should be the phases involved? What are the risks that are there in the current environment? What are the mitigation criteria? So the mitigation criteria could be either, a business process optimization, or it could be a technical control implementation. So all of that sort of a flow has to be there, or that sort of a thought has to be there while we are getting an IAM solution, or while we are thinking of having the IAM solution as the crux of your overall security portfolio. While we are talking about zero trust kind of architecture these days, a strong IAM solution implementation becomes even more important for any enterprise which is thinking of adapting zero trust architecture. Legacy application inclusion now. Many a times we have seen that while organizations are, trying to get those or adapt towards cloud adoption, or, going into digital transformation journey, there are these legacy application chunks that sort of gets left behind. And these sort of function in silos. They will be very disconnected. So you'll have an IAM program running for your upgraded systems, and then you have this legacy chunk which is untouched. So it's very important that these legacy applications are also brought under the purview of the IAM program. Now, the challenge that could be here is that there may not be, connected development may be a very additional effort, or APIs are not available for easy integration. Then what do we do? That is when we make use of RPA kind of technologies out there, with which these legacy applications can be brought into the purview. So it's important that the IAM program be overall for the enterprise rather than it working in different silos, because that is not how an optimum benefit out of the IAM program can be achieved. Next is it should work as a holistic solution. So all of us here know that, when we speak about IAM as such, there are different verticals within IAM. So you have your identity management, which takes care of the identity life cycle of an entity, basically employee, non-employee, contractor, consumer, either way. So when the employee comes in, what is the kind of access that is given, and when they leave or when they are moving from role to role, those kind of things. We also know about what comes under the access governance part. That is where we look at running these campaigns for access recertification and segregation of duties analysis and so on and so forth. Then we have the access management bit, where we talk about single sign-ons, enterprise single sign-on, API security kind of thing. And then a completely different thing is privileged access management, where access to the critical assets need to be focused or need to be secured. So that again is a stronger or a bigger, what do you say, an entity in itself. So while we are defining the IAM program for the enterprise, it is important that this works as a holistic solution. So if we start during the IAM assessment, you figure out that there are compliance requirements and there are a lot of SOD conflicts within the organization, and you need to have an IAG solution first. While the product is being chosen, it is very important to understand that this IAG solution sits inside sits along with the other what do you say, other suites of IAM and other products within your security portfolio. As I was telling earlier, it needs to seamlessly integrate with your SIEM solutions, ITSMs, and other solutions, access management, privileged access management solutions. So that integration has to be seamless. So IAM program need to be looked at a holistic solution rather than looking at bits and pieces of it and then ending up with disconnected systems overall, right? Next is IAM needs to be looked at as a program and not a project, because we have seen how the modern identity landscape has been changing or has been moving very, very rapidly through changes. And that's the reason why identity management is actually a journey. So it needs to be looked at in that fashion. It will be a long-term process. It's not like we implement and we leave it and then it will automatically adapt to any new challenges that will come in through. That's not how it works. Functionality over budget is an important constraint while choosing any product, meaning that many a times we might feel that while we are choosing the product, this is my current requirement and this is enough. So I may not require the additional features that the solution is providing. What we can do at that point in time is adjust the licensing so that only the core features are part of the solution. But future extensibility, scalability should always form the crux of any solution or any product that is picked up, especially in the IAM space, because of the thriving speed at which the changes in the landscape are being noticed. Product selection and vision. So while these products are being selected also, there are a few things that need to be kept in mind. First and foremost is to go back. I would go back again and reiterate about your IAM assessment to be done, because that's when we'll come to know what is the requirements that are there, what are the gaps, what are the criticality of those gaps, how it can be mitigated, and these requirements across what are the other products that are addressing these requirements, and which is the one which will best fit into one enterprise, right? It could be different products that could fit into. So which is the best optimum product for that particular enterprise? That is one thing. It's always best to go for products which are going to fall back on modern technologies such as artificial intelligence or machine learning, because these technologies were invented in the first place to make life easier for us. So it makes sense to fall back on products which has these sort of technologies at its core. Products which have or which has a vision or industry presence and capabilities across different domains, not just the domain that one particular enterprise is part of, because extensibility is something that should always be at the core. Scalability and extensibility should always be at the core while making these kind of strategic decisions for the enterprise. Industry trends is another thing that needs to be looked at while choosing these kind of products, or which will fit into the IAM landscape. On that note, what I will do is I will hand over the stage to Sobi Chakku, my esteemed friend from SailPoint, who will be able to address a few more concerns and requirements around the modern IAG space and how it works. Over to you, Sobi.
Hey, hi, Supriya. Hey, Kalyani, can you just confirm that you're able to see my screen?
Yes, Sobi, your screen is visible and we can hear you clear.
Oh, okay. Hey, hi everyone. This is Sobi Chako, a senior pre-sales consultant from SailPoint, being with SailPoint for the last 2 years now. Today I'm really happy because I'm with Happiest Minds, and given this opportunity to speak to our esteemed partners and customers and able to give you some overview of our core capabilities around SailPoint Identity Governance Platform. It's going to be a very high level overview. Okay. So let's get right to it. Okay. First of all, let me give you some introduction about SailPoint. So we were born in 2005 in Austin, Texas. So when we started our company, we started as a socks company. Then you could see our evolution. In 2007, we introduced a lot of capabilities in governance. In 2013, we introduced the world's largest modern multi-tenant microservice-based SaaS platform to help deliver the identity services from cloud. Then we also realized that governing just applications and accounts are not good enough, right? A lot of data and users are sitting in unstructured form of data like Windows file servers and storages. So we also introduced the governance of unstructured data, which we call it as file access management. And we realized uh, we are going through a significant digital transformation initiatives, and just managing identity governance just with the help of humans is becoming merely impossible, right? That's where we need to induce artificial intelligence and machine learning into the identity governance platform. That's where we have done it in 2019. Okay. In 2020, we are in a continuous innovation space, right? So we realize many enterprises are moving to multi-cloud environments like Azure, AWS, or Google Cloud, and a lot of workloads of our customers are running on this cloud infrastructure. So we decided to introduce governance of different cloud environments which are prevailing in the market as well. Okay. And worldwide, we have around 1,600 plus employees, and we are known as SAIL in New York Stock Exchange. Just to give you a very high level understanding of where we stand in the market. So if you look at the presentation, right, these are the top analysts in the market in identity governance, which are Forrester, Gartner, and Kuping and Core. And we are really proud to say that we are the market leaders in all this analyst report. And not just this year, right? For the last 6 consecutive years, we are the market leaders. Okay. With that, I will just start. I will get into the details of our platform. Okay. So again, right? We are the world's largest multi-tenant microservice-based SaaS platform. Okay. So the identity for a long time has had this perception, typically, right? Negative around identity does in the organization of a journey and the path it has taken to get a successful outcome. And again, our platform being multi-tenant SaaS solution, it's really about the conversation and rethinking the traditional approaches to the identity, right? So there is a change. The conversation with different customers and prospects are different. We talk about speed to value. We talk about quick wins. We talk about resiliency, no downtime, agility, and scalability, right? As a customer, you should focus on your business. The technical things, right? We take care. That's what we want to do for you. And one of the main things is the single code train that you see on the top here, right? Where we differ significantly as a SaaS platform that is a multi-tenant, while there are other solutions that are IGA hosted solutions. They are typical single tenant. So it does not differ from a typical monolithic solution hosted in public cloud or in your private cloud. And what they run is their own software versions in each of the deployment. Whereas we run single version of the platform across all customers globally, right? So any new innovations coming in, any new features that are coming in, you automatically get it without any downtime or any patching or anything. You just forget about it. You focus on your business, right? And one of the other things we hugely focus is around the user experience. So we have significantly invested in UX designers to really think about the delivery of the platform. Ultimately, what can determine the success of identity governance program is user adoption, right? And if you know IGA program or identity governance program is a far-reaching platform, right? In an organization, it will touch every parts of your organization. So business-friendly, easy, intuitive UI is a key for the success. And it has to be very simple. You should not make it very complex, right? That's where people can start adopting it. And we offer you that, okay? And again, we just want to talk about the extent of our integration. When we are talking about an identity governance platform, we are not just talking about integrating with your simple databases or directories or some operating system. There are identities which are sitting across all type of enterprise applications in your enterprise, whether it could be an ITSM systems like ServiceNow, or it could be an ERP systems like SAP ERP or Oracle ERP. It could be a cloud collaboration systems like OneDrive or Dropbox, or it could be a SIEM systems like Splunk or ArcSight, or it could be an SSO solution. Identities are everywhere, right? It could be a PAM solution like CyberArk or Beyond Trust. And you have to make sure that the identities which are sitting across your enterprise applications are governed properly. They have the right accesses within those enterprise applications. And SailPoint become a trusted source of identity, right, for your enterprise applications, regardless, right, whether it is sitting on premise or whether it's sitting on cloud. That is what we do, okay? And we are an open identity platform. Okay, so these are the core capabilities of SailPoint Predictive Identity Platform. On the top, you can see, right, there are foundational IGA functions like provisioning, access request, password management, access certification, and segregation of duty. The provisioning is all around introducing automations in your organization, right? When an employee joins the organization, or when he moves from one department to another, or when he leaves the organization, how can I automate all these processes within an organization? That's what provisioning module will do. And make sure that you don't have any entitlement creeps in your organization. Access request is to introduce controls in your organization. You have to make sure that the accesses the users are getting in your organizations are given through proper approval processes, right? That's where how you control the accesses given to the users. Password management, enforce centralized password policies, a platform which allows the user to log in and synchronize the password across your enterprise application, a mechanism to recover the password. These are some of the capabilities around password management module. Access certification, this is one of the key core requirement, right? Especially in the financial organizations where you will be forced to review, right? As part of your regulatory requirements, you should go and look at the accesses of your existing employees or any identities within the organization and make sure that these users have right accesses within the organization. That's what access certifications will do. And segregation of duty, this will make sure that none of the users in your enterprise have toxic combination of accesses, right? If you're taking um, a financial organization, probably a loan approval and loan dispersal functions, right? If I have both the functions, I should be able to approve and disperse the loan for my relatives, right? So, again, this job functions could be sitting across the application, right? Probably today your loan, maybe tomorrow, right? Your loan approval functions could be sitting on premise. Loan dispersal could be sitting in another ERP, which is sitting in cloud. So you may want to enforce SODs across the applications, right? So these are some of the core foundational IGA capabilities that we give. Okay, then going forward, we realize that we are going through significant digital transformation initiatives, right? So that's where we realized we need artificial intelligence and machine learning to augment the foundational capabilities in your enterprise. It is otherwise it's very difficult to take governance decisions because business is changing very drastically, right? So today I will not be really touching on the core foundational capabilities, but I will be doing a deep dive, okay, into our AI capabilities. Okay, so let's get right to it. Okay, so the idea is what are the different business values that predictive identity solution will bring to you, right? And you know that the time is now for organization to adopt AI driven identity governance to stay ahead of security and compliance pitfalls, right? And digital transformation, I explained before, the changing workforce, right? And an ongoing wave of compliance requirements like GDPR or RBI regulations, HIPAA, ISO 2001. There are a lot of regulations that are coming in, right? And they have also introduced so many types of users. It could be, your users could be employees, it could be contractors or business partners or bots, IoT devices. There are different types of identities that are coming in. I was speaking to one of the customer, and they were saying that around 27% of their workforce is bots. Okay, and bots are managing their applications, right? And bots also is like an identity, right? If you don't terminate an identity, and if an insider get access to that bot, it could do malicious activities within an organization, which can impact you financially and reputationally, right? And there are a lot of point of accesses, applications, and data that it has become almost difficult to IT departments to keep up, isn't it? And human-based governance approach can only scale so much, and with it comes an error in identifying the risk in your organization. And a new generation of identity driven by the power of AI is really required for you. One that enables identity to be autonomous. It should be autonomous, right? While you stay in complete control of that identity. And with the power of AI and machine learning, our SailPoint predictive identity helps organization to stay ahead of the security curve by proactively spotting the risky users and the access and pose a potential threats, right? It learns and adopts as your organization changes. So you can ensure that every user has the access they need when they need it. That's very important. Only for the time they need it, right? That's called least privilege model, right? It connects and controls access to everything and everyone in the organization. Fundamentally, it really removes the complexity from identity and makes identity very easy in your organization. That's what we want to do, right? And with the SailPoint predictive AI capabilities, right? And these are the few capabilities in our platform. One is access insights, access modeling, and recommendation engine, right? And with this, you can actually do a couple of things, right? I'm going to explain you in next slides. The next, so let me go through the SailPoint demonstration itself. The first capability of our platform, our identity AI platform, is access insights, right? So basically what it does is your IGA platform, right, have a lot of data in it, right? So basically what we do is it interface with the identity data, which is already there in your IGA platform, to get a unparalleled visibility to further enhance IGA objectives, right? And one of the things could be access history, right? So what it does is it collects large amount of access data, including roles from your IGA system, and that can be visualized in a more comprehensible format for analysis and reporting, right? That is one of the main business benefit you get from access insight module. So let me actually directly jump into the platform so that you get a visibility onto that, right? You could see here, this is our access history module in AI engine, right? So as you see here, we can track and analyze the user access over a period of time from a single source of truth to provide you a complete visibility, right? You can understand how access was granted and removed for better auditing, because auditors will be coming up with a lot of questions, right? When was access given? Who gave it, right? So all the access details can be visualized, and more intuitively you are able to give more information to the auditors and identify the risk attached to the users, right? For example, if you look at access history, let's look at this time, right? For example, on December 20th 2019, a certain event happened to the employee. You can just click and see, right? You can see that an entitlement was removed from him, right? And again, on another event that happened in July 19 2020, right? You could see another entitlement called balance information access was removed. You have also capabilities around comparing the accesses of the user from for a period of time. For example, I want to see what are the different activities happen for this user from, let's say, uh, January 2013 till today, for example. Okay, 30th. 2013 till today, let's say, what are the different governance events happen for him? You could say that for this user, two entitlements were removed, right? Or what do you see before? Balance information access and account termination analysis access from your core banking application was removed for this user, right? The entire history of the user, when did he join the organization? What are the different life cycle events happen for that user? Right? What are the governance events? Like, did he go through any certification? Did somebody approve his request, right? Every information can be tracked and visualized for better forensic analysis, right? That's what we do as part of access history, okay? The second part of our access insight module is a data explore, okay? Data explore is a very interesting capability within SailPoint, right? So what it does is, it actually collects identity data. You can see here, and that can be visualized in a more consumable format for analysis and reporting, right? And you can query and filter by different access types, accounts, attribute changes, and governance events, right? And you can see here, you can visualize and explore your identity data for tracking the metrics and spotting trends, right? For example, you can see in this quarter, around 9,483 users have been joined the organization, right? It's a very bad example, but this is based on the data, right? And you could see the largest number of people in the organization is with the job title of branch teller in your organization, right? Or probably something like, what are the different applications having most number of accounts in the organization, right? So another would be certification statistics, right? You could see how the KPI of your governance program is, right? You can see that, the number of certification decisions that are taken by different departments in your organization. This is just very, very sample charts, okay? In this way, you can generate a KPIs and reporting for different types of uh, governance events in your organization. And you could see here, what are the number of most number of revoked entitlements as part of your certification campaign. The other example could be, just give me a minute, access request KPI. See, right? You could see that the consumer loan department is the one who raised the most number of requests in the organization, around 239, right? Followed by commercial loans, which is 221. So you can see the trends, right? So number of requests by location, the most number of requested entitlement, average request time location. These are some of the samples, right? Matrices that can be provided by our AI engine, right? So this is all about access insights and access history, right? Access history and data explore, right? The next thing, what I would like to show you is data modeling, okay? So let me go there. And you know that you would have heard about role modeling, right? The organizations are trying to find out what are the different business roles in an in an enterprise, right? So that you can automate certain processes within the enterprises. And in fact, they are really failing with that, right? I have personally involved in role engineering exercises where the enterprises spend months and months to identify enterprise roles, right? And ultimately, because of the change in business, the dynamicity of the business, the roles they discover, right, that becomes so challenging, right? It becomes, very obsolete, right? The role you discovered in this month will become obsolete in the next month because the business have already changed, right? So it's very impossible for humans to derive the roles after different types of approvals and talking to the business, etc. So what SailPoint will do is you can derive the role based on machine learning and AI capabilities. Let's take an example, right? As a um, uh, analyst, I want to find out what are the different roles which are available in accounting department. For example, I search by accounting, just click on that, right? And I can just click on role discovery, for example, and it discover all the possible roles that are attached to the accounting department using machine learning and AI capability. That's what it's doing now, right? It takes few seconds, right? So then from here, you could actually derive the possible roles from the system, right? And can be given as an input to your IGA systems, right? For automations and, automating or realigning the accesses based on the requirements, etc. Right? So it's actually bringing in a lot of data and collecting and building that role now. It's taking a couple of seconds. So once this role is generated, right, the SailPoint can push this role to the IGA systems for automation. That's what it does. Okay, so that is role modeling. The next one is what we call it as recommendation engine, right? So let me go to that. Okay, so recommendation engine is helping humans to take right governance decisions within the organization, right? For example, you know that when a decision maker like manager or a compliance officer is performing an access review within the organization, it's a very tedious job, right? For example, a manager may get 1,000 line items um, to review or take decisions on, right? Or whether if a manager is getting a request to approve a request, he may not know whether he should approve it or revoke it, right? Because the business have changed, the people have changed, and I don't know whether I should approve this request for a certain person or not. That's where AI can help you with recommendation engines, right? So let's look at one of the capabilities called access review. Okay. So if I look at access manager, you could see that some of the these are the items, right, that needs to be reviewed by the manager, right? These are the entitlements or access profiles and roles that needs to be reviewed, right? And here you could see a thumbs down button, right? And these are some of the recommendations that are coming from the AI, right? If I click on this, it's saying, okay, it is not recommended to approve this, right, because of XYZ reason, right? None of the other people who are reporting to you in the organization have this access. So this user could be an outlier, right? He is spotted as a high risk user in the organization. So ideally, you should not approve this, right? And the AI and the machine learning have done for you, right? You can rely on that, right? And just revoke it immediately, right? Right. So that makes the life of the approver or the decision makers much easy within the organization. Okay. So that is what this is a very high level overview of our AI capabilities. So I just explained access history. I explained data explore, right? The second scenario was access modeling, right? Previously, if you have to build a role, right, you have to go through a lot of manual process. But now with AI access modeling, it will derive the roles automatically, and you could use these roles for um, automating different things within the organization. And finally, we also talked about this is how it looks like, right? This is where it will tell you these are the possible roles within the organization, and you can promote these roles to your IGA system where it can be used for different automation purposes. And finally, the recommendation engine I have already shown you. Okay, based on peer group analysis, it could recommend whether you should approve or reject it. Your governance decisions can be based on the outcome that is coming from your AI or machine learning techniques. Right, this is how it looks like, right? Thumbs up and thumbs down button. And that's it. With that, I just finish off my presentation. If you have any question, I will just open it for you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Susmita and Sobi, for the insightful sharing. And note that because we are overrun a little bit today, and I don't see any questions in the Q&A box, so I will just wrap up in here. Thank you for joining us today, and the Happiest Minds team will be reaching out to each of the attendees for a follow-up call tomorrow. If any of you are interested with a detailed demo or free IAM assessments, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thanks again, and we look forward to welcoming you in this next event. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.